Part 47. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 475. This. Ninomiya Chizuru, who was holding him and acting coquettishly, let go of her hand and fell into hesitation. Mixed bathing is one of Neon's traditional cultures. This culture is very attractive to both men and women. Because of food and sex, humans, as the animals with the longest estrus period, have an instinctive pursuit of the opposite sex. It's not just men who are lustful, girls are actually lusty too, but their expressions are different. Didn't you say before that it would be okay even if we couldn't take a hot spring bath together? Although deep down she was looking forward to a mixed bath, Ninomiya Chizuru thought about it and still felt it was inappropriate and asked. Although this is the case, it would definitely be better if we bathe in the hot spring together, and there is a private bath in the room. It would be a waste if we don't use it. Kurosawa Hikaru was not surprised to see that she did not agree directly, but just persuaded her in a subtle way. The tradition of mixed bathing has long been eliminated with the development of the times and is on the verge of disappearing. Because ostensibly follows traditional mixed bathing, crocodiles inevitably appear in public baths. Hot spring crocodiles are undesirable individuals with ulterior motives who wait for women to come in, chat up and harass them in undressing rooms and hot spring pools. However, the traditional mixed bath disappears in the light, but still exists in the dark, or it exists in a changed form. For example, in Bayado's mixed bathing hot springs, both men and women wear swimsuits. The atmosphere is very harmonious, and it quickly became popular all over the world. For example, various high-end hotels in Hakone are equipped with private hot springs, that is, there are independent hot springs in the guest rooms, and you can mix bathing if you want. Is it a waste? After hearing this, Ninomiya Chizuru raised her eyes and looked at the hot spring pool made of Zelkova wood not far away, her eyes serious. In fact, she knew why this hotel was so popular and so difficult to make a reservation. Although the environment, service, and all aspects of the Musashino Honkan are very good, what distinguishes it from other hotels is the large number of private baths in the guest rooms. This aspect is particularly attractive to young couples on honeymoon, couples in love, and men and women with ambiguous relationships. Can I wear a towel? After thinking for a long time, Ninomiya Chizuru withdrew her gaze and looked at the man beside her again. She didn't know if she would have the chance to go on a date in Hakone hot spring like today. If you miss this opportunity, it will be difficult to go to the hot springs together again, it would be such a waste. Sure. When she finally made her decision, Kurosawa's eyes lit up and he nodded without hesitation. In a bath towel? That's great. Faced with this situation, if he hesitated for even a second, it would be disrespectful to Sister Kinhee. In fact, even if Chizuru-san wants to wear a swimsuit and take a bath, he thinks it's fine. You also need to wear a towel. Seeing his overjoyed reaction, Ninomiya Chizuru suddenly felt a little embarrassed and added, "No problem." Kurosawa Hikaru was stunned when he heard this, then followed her intention and nodded with a smile. In fact, he would do this even if she didn't ask for it. Because you have to eat one bite at a time, and you have to take steps when falling in love, and you can't rush for success. He had a feeling that today's date would be a great success. Take a bath together, wash her feet, help her do a spa, and then sleep in the same bed, everything will happen naturally. Well, you can tell me now, what is your agreement with Runa, right? Seeing that he agreed, Ninomiya Chizuru breathed a sigh of relief, and her mind became restless again. She had hesitated for so long but still made up her mind for two reasons. On the one hand, she didn't want to waste this hot spring date and wanted to make it more fulfilling. On the one hand, she was too curious about what the agreement between Runa and Kurosawa meant. Well, Kurosawa Hikaru, who was still very happy, suddenly regained his composure and held back. As we all know, People can say a lot of deviant things when they are having a high oral sex. If the other person is willing to have a high oral pleasure with you, then there are no taboos. In short, the so-called agreement between him and Ms. Runa about pushing the butt was actually just a matter of talking about it for a while. Because Ms. Runa is an old Siji, and the relationship between them is very ambiguous and they are always flirting with each other, there are some things that can be said. But Sister Kinhee is different. She is more serious and serious in both image and personality. Say it quickly, I promised you. Seeing the troubled look on his face, Ninomiya Chizuru immediately stopped listening. She was willing to go all out, act coquettishly, and agree to go out with him in the bath. How about I tell you tomorrow? Kurosawa Hikaru knew her determination, but after thinking about it, he still chickened out. It's not that his character is not straightforward enough, but that he is worried that if he talks about it, it may ruin the hot spring trip. This matter is no small matter. Even if Chizuru-san expressed her attitude and hoped that he could bring Runa with him, there is a bottom line in everything. Even if you are as traditional as in the future, you are not willing to sleep with others. No, if you don't tell me, I won't be able to sleep tonight. How could Ninomiya Chizuru agree? She grabbed his arm and started acting coquettishly again. If I don't tell you, you really can't sleep. If I tell you, I'm afraid you'll drive back to Tokyo all night. Kurosawa Hikaru saw her beautiful face and thought to himself. Sister Kinhee, I have thought about it seriously and told others my secret. This kind of behavior is very bad. How about forget it? I won't go to the hot springs with you, and you can just pretend that I didn't say anything about it just now. After thinking about it, Kurosawa Hikaru sighed and said. It made him heartbroken to ask him to give up going to the bathing house with Sister Kinhee, but he had no choice. Kurosawa. Hearing this, Ninomiya Chizuru was immediately unhappy and looked at him resentfully. All right. Men have always been soft-spoken, and Kurosawa Hikaru was no exception. He found that she had lowered her dignity to such an extent, so she still compromised. Before I tell you, I have a few small requests. However, he didn't say it directly, but made an agreement with her in advance. Still have any requirements? Tell me. Ninomiya Chizuru didn't expect that he had so many requests. After thinking about it, she decided to see what he had to say first. She even agreed to such a shameful thing as taking a hot spring bath together. She should be able to agree to other requests as long as they are not too excessive. After I told you, you can't be angry. Kurosawa raised a finger and made a request. Is his agreement with Runa something that will make me angry? Ninomiya Chizuru was surprised, but she still nodded. After you find out, you must not tell Miss Runa. Kurosawa Hikaru made a second request. Don't worry, I never talk nonsense. Ninomiya Chizuru didn't even think about this request. No matter what I said, we will still take a bath together later. Kurosawa Hikaru made a third request. This was leaving a way out for himself. As long as Sister Kinhee didn't suddenly burst into heartbroken tears like she did before, and kept retreating in the face of his approach, he would have a chance to coax her. Good. Ninomiya Chizuru nodded. The last request should be said to be a question. Please think carefully before answering me. Do you really want me to pursue Miss Runa? Seeing her successive promises, Kurosawa took a deep breath and asked with a serious and dignified expression. Of course it's true. To this question, Ninomiya Chizuru gave the answer without hesitation. She no longer needed to think about this matter because she had already thought about it clearly. When she first suspected that Kurosawa Hikari might be cheating on her, she had thought that it would actually be acceptable if Kurosawa had another woman, and that person was Runa. She also thought that Kurosawa had intimate interactions with other women in front of her, which might not be unacceptable to Runa. However, she just wanted to think about it, because Runai had complained in front of her more than once after getting drunk, complaining about the chaos in the entertainment industry, hating playboys, and would never find an artist as her boyfriend. However, she discovered one thing: what Runa said was not absolute. Because Runa didn't show strong disgust after knowing that Kurosawa was a playboy, and even after the Kyoto tournament, the relationship was still very good. It was at that time that she quickly sorted out her thoughts and made up her mind. The weak are complaining, the strong are adapting. Since Kurosawa's love interest cannot be changed, then adapt to it and get more for yourself. Put your ear closer. Seeing her attitude, Kurosawa Hikaru was finally mentally prepared to ask for her hand. Don't do weird things to my ears. Upon hearing this request, Ninomiya Chizuru suddenly remembered what happened before and felt ashamed for no reason. It was quite comfortable, but it felt so embarrassing, even more shameful than a normal kiss. Pushing the butt means. Kurosawa nodded, waited until her ear came forward, and whispered. Some words were difficult to explain clearly and would make people embarrassed to speak, so he decided to whisper. Because he was not facing Sister Kinzuru, he would not be affected by her reaction. Regarding this matter, even the old Siji Igarashi Runa was not able to react immediately. For a novice Siji like Ninomiya Chizuru, something must be said clearly. Kurosawa Hikaru's soft whisper rang in his ears, but Ninomiya Chizuru heard it like thunder. Her heart was shocked, and her eyes widened in disbelief. Some keywords, such as 3 people, and push, kept echoing in her mind, which opened her eyes and made her feel incredible. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 476. Are you sure you're not kidding? Ninomiya Chizuru felt unbelievable, and when she came to her senses, her face turned red. Although she had vague suspicions before, the agreement between Runa and Kurosawa was definitely not serious. If she were serious, Runa's tone wouldn't be so ambiguous and provocative. But what I never expected was that the truth turned out to be like this. Can't be angry, can't tell her. Kurosawa reminded her and did not respond. Did she really promise you? Ninomiya Chizuru only felt that it was incredible. As for being angry, she completely forgot about it. This agreement explains many problems. First of all, the relationship between Runa and Kurosawa has progressed, which is already extraordinary. Furthermore, Runa was too bold to agree to such a thing. Kurosawa Hikaru still didn't answer this question, he just waited silently and observed her reaction. From this point of view, Chizuru sincerely hopes that he can bring Miss Runa back. Otherwise, if you think about it normally, you would definitely be angry. Although he didn't say anything, Ninomiya Chizuru also found the answer. At this moment, she thought about many things. Why is Kurosawa so sure that Runa has no objection to his pursuit? Why did Runa say that she was holding her back, but also asked her to seize the opportunity and use her charming big eyes and long legs to think of a solution? Why did Runa remind Kurosawa of the promise after confirming that she was taking a shower? If she guessed correctly, Runa was working on 2 fronts. On the one hand, she was letting her take the initiative to seduce him, and on the other hand, she was encouraging Kurosawa to seize this opportunity. Runa would say such a thing and agree to such a thing. Isn't this too bold? Ninomiya Chizuru pressed her face with both hands. Her face was very hot and she was extremely shocked. She thought about the scene when Kurosawa took turns kissing her and Runa before going out, and she and Runa ran back to sleep, and thought that was a beautiful thing. What's more, when she was alone in the dead of night, thinking about the future, she thought about 3 people sleeping in the same bed and chatting, which was beautiful and harmonious. But pushing her buttocks was really out of line for her and she never thought about it. As an adult, she naturally understands all kinds of things between the sexes. If she doesn't understand at this age, she is not pure, but stupid. However, her understanding of it mainly comes from textbooks, such as health and physical education classes. She is indeed quite bold. She went on a date with me for the first time and went drinking with her, and she almost slept with me that night. Kurosawa Hikaru thought to himself when he saw her reaction, as if she had discovered that her best friend, whom she had known for more than 20 years, had this side of her. As early as the first meeting, he discovered that Miss Runa was very courageous. Whether it was when shaking hands, tickling his palms with your fingers, teasing him like a little devil, or daring to let him hug him and play on the trampoline not long after meeting him. From a normal perspective, any more reserved girl would never do this. Although there are legitimate reasons for both of these things, they can be explained. For example, scratching the palm of your hand is to help your best friend to check whether he is a scumbag. For example, letting him hold him while playing on the trampoline was to stimulate Chizuru, and also to serve as his wingman and heat up the atmosphere of the game. However, there was no valid reason to explain the matter of lying on the bed and holding his waist with her legs, preventing him from leaving. Fortunately, he is not the impatient type. He believes that relationships should be developed step by step, and he must not spend the night on the first date. Otherwise, Miss Runa's progress would have caught up with Xiaoyuki's progress. This topic was too sensitive, making both of them think deeply, and the room fell into silence. Not long after, the hotel clerk knocked on the door and asked if they wanted to eat. After running out and playing for a long time, it quite consumed energy. Ninomiya Chizuru was already hungry and definitely needed to eat. As for Kurosawa, even though his physical fitness is not average, he is also looking forward to dinner. You know, after dinner, it will officially be nighttime. After taking a bath and changing into yukata, their range of actions will be fixed within the hotel. Ms. Chizuru, Mr. Kurosawa, the hotel's hot springs are available around the clock and are very comfortable. Please be sure to experience it. After bringing dinner to the room, Rika Yamamuro, the female clerk in charge of their check-in, noticed that they were still wearing private clothes and reminded them in a gentle voice. Good. Kurosawa Hikaru glanced at Ninomiya Chizuru next to him and nodded. If you come to Hakone and don't even take a dip in the hot springs, wouldn't your visit be in vain? And if you don't take a hot spring bath, what's the difference between this hotel and a hotel in Tokyo? If you too want to take a bath, please tell me and I will prepare yukata for you. Rika Yamamuro tilted her head slightly to show her responsibility. In fact, she still has some things to say. For example, she will help guests put on yukata. However, as a woman, it is better not to mention this unspoken rule when the guest has a female companion. Excuse me, after we have dinner, we will take a short break and then take a bath in the hot springs. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded and made the request. To be honest, after they checked in, the staff did not have much service experience, that is, serving food for 2 meals. Should the 2 guests go to the public bath or the hot spring in the guest room? Rika Yamamuro knelt on the floor, looking at the 2 guests. The hot spring in the guest room. Kurosawa Hikaru had the answer without even thinking. Just kidding, he finally got Chizuru to agree to take a bath with him. How could he go to a public bath? You know, this hotel does not have mixed bathing, it is divided into men's and women's baths. Yes, please let me leave for a while and go get the bathing supplies. After confirming his needs, Rika Yamamuro planned to deal with it as soon as possible. Bathing supplies are actually yukata, disinfected clean bath towels and the like. And help me get 2 bottles of essential oil for spa. Seeing that she was about to leave, Kurosawa Hikaru thought about it and asked her to prepare in one step. Otherwise, after running the hot spring, asking this female clerk to run again may affect the atmosphere. Does the customer want to do a spa? Then I'll go and inform the beauty therapist. No need to inform the beauty therapist, we will do it ourselves, you just get me 2 bottles of essential oil. Yes. Rika Yamamuro was not surprised by this request, but just agreed. Although this situation is rather special, she has been in the industry for many years and has seen too many different kinds of customers. After that, she said goodbye again and turned to leave. During this period, Ninomiya Chizuru did not say a word, just eating dinner quietly, and no one knew what she was thinking. However, she was obviously not opposed to taking a hot spring bath together after dinner, and did not stop it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 477. During dinner, the hotel clerk, Rika Yamamuro, delivered bath products and essential oils to the room. Dinner was not suitable for being too rich, so she simply ate something to fill her stomach, and then called the clerk to take away the plate. As the clerk closed the door, there were only 2 people left in the room, and the atmosphere became strange. It was okay for a man and a woman to be alone in the hotel during the day, but now with the arrival of night and the lights on, the mind will inevitably be restless. I'll take a shower first. Kurosawa Hikaru naturally noticed this strangeness. After thinking about it, he made a decisive decision and took the lead to set an example for her. After that, he went into the bathroom next to the bedroom. In Nihon, there are various etiquette cultures for taking a hot spring bath, and they pay attention to details. Although it is a private bath, it is always cleaner to take a shower and rinse the body before taking a bath. Seeing his back walk into the bathroom and close the door, Ninomiya Chizuru breathed a sigh of relief, and looked around the room again with a wandering gaze, thinking about something in her heart. The hot spring in the guest room is actually quite large, about 4 meters in size. Even if 2 people take a bath together, it won't seem crowded. Although it would be awkward for each person to take half, it should be fine if they both wear bath towels. What attracted her attention more than this was the futon that the waitress had laid out in the bedroom while they were eating. The pure Japanese-style house is standard with wood and tatami. In order to save space and maximize the convenience of life, there is no bed in the bedroom, but when you need to sleep, you can spread the futon on the floor. It was a big futon, not the kind of 2 single futons spliced together, but a large futon of 2.1 meters x 1.8 meters. With only 1 bed and 1 quilt, how can you sleep at night? Will they hug each other while sleeping? What will happen when a man and a woman sleep in bed is self-evident. Is it going to be a done deal tonight? In the atmosphere of thought, Ninomiya Chizuru's heartbeat can't stop accelerating. For her, it was too exciting to book a room with a boy and spend the night. What made her feel uneasy was that Kurosawa once said that she would get married and get pregnant. After an unknown amount of time, the bathroom door was opened. Ninomiya Chizuru heard the noise and looked over subconsciously. Kurosawa Hikaru, who had just finished taking a shower, came out with a bath towel tightly wrapped around his waist. His hair was wet and a bit messy. Unlike his usual gentle and refined appearance, his handsome face gave people a natural and uninhibited feeling. He had a great figure, with neat and well-defined abdominal muscles that looked symmetrical, with well-defined edges and corners, and firm chest muscles that looked full. Isn't this too sexy? This scene made Ninomiya Chizuru stunned, with a blush on her face and a huge wave in her heart. This look, this figure, this temperament, Kurosawa was the look she liked from beginning to end, which was in line with her aesthetics. Although they had known each other for a long time, it was actually the first time she saw Kurosawa without clothes. Kurosawa Hikaru was still wrapped in a bath towel, revealing only the upper body, and the most critical parts could not be seen, but because of this, it was even more attractive. Sister Chizuru, it's your turn to wash. Even as thick-skinned as Kurosawa Hikaru, facing her hot and direct gaze, he couldn't stand it and spoke. In fact, in terms of exposure, his current situation was no different from being at the beach. but the solid and stable swimming trunks that allowed him to run and jump at will, replaced by the unstable bath towel that required him to pay attention to the range of motion, made him feel uneasy. As he said that, he did not forget to move, heading towards the balcony. Okay. Ninomiya Chizuru nodded and began to remove her makeup. First she took off her wig, then the wig net, and shook her head, and the long blue hair that had been bound for a day rolled down like a piece of silk. This feeling is so good, just like working all day, coming home, taking off your high heels, untying your bra, the sense of relief is so strong. At the same time, Kurosawa Hikaru has already walked to the private bath on the balcony. Wow, so it's so comfortable to take a hot spring bath in summer. Walking straight into the hot spring, soaking your whole body in hot water, as if you were thrown into a warm embrace, Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but sigh. He originally thought that taking a hot spring bath in summer was outrageous and an unexpected choice. Because the most easily associated things in summer are the sea, swimming, and summer vacation, anyway, it is impossible to be related to taking a hot spring bath. But what I never expected was that the feeling of taking a hot spring bath in summer was so good, as if the muscles and skin of the whole body were making joyful sounds. The divergent and relaxed thinking only lasted for a while, and his mind soon became focused. From the reaction just now, Sister Chizuru doesn't seem to reject it. Kurosawa Hikaru thought of what happened just now, and he seemed to have realized something. After getting along with each other today, he felt thoroughly that Sister Chizuru was particularly tolerant of Miss Runa's affairs. Before this, whenever Chizuru asked about Miss Runa, he was very embarrassed and couldn't help wondering if Chizuru was speaking in a sarcastic way. It's not that he is suspicious by nature, but it's based on the boyfriend's self-cultivation and desire to survive. After all, when your girlfriend asks you about your relationship with other girls, even if she smiles nicely and says she doesn't mind, who knows what she really thinks in her heart? Is it really possible to share a quilt with best friends? Thinking of this, Kurosawa Hikaru's mind could not help but become restless. In fact, he was just joking with Igarashi Runa before, and he really thought it was impossible. In his opinion, his girlfriends were willing to turn a blind eye to his cheating, which was very considerate. For example, even Mirai refused to share a quilt, let alone Chizuru. But now it seems that Chizuru is not very opposed to this aspect, perhaps because they are good friends and have a super good relationship. After thinking about it for a while, his thoughts were quickly suppressed. It's too early to think about such things before the fete is even started. Not long after, he heard a little noise coming from the house. Looking in the direction of the sound, he saw Ninomiya Chizuru coming out. She just got out of the bath, her blue hair fell naturally like a waterfall. She usually looked cool and elegant, but now she seemed to have fallen into the world, with a little more fireworks and looked very natural. Her beautiful face, slender arms and proud figure were mostly covered by the bath towel, but her snow-white and soft skin was extremely dazzling, as if it would glow. She was so beautiful that you could smell the fragrance emanating from her body just by looking at her. Ninomiya Chizuru's bath towel was wrapped in a female way, that is, it was wrapped around the chest, but there was also a disadvantage to doing so, that is, the lower body could not be covered too completely. Under the pure white bath towel, the plump and soft thighs, straight calves, perfect and slender curves, were extremely eye-catching. I shouldn't have exposed myself. Facing his straight gaze, Ninomiya Chizuru blushed and shyly, holding the corner of the fixed bath towel tightly with her hands, and couldn't help but look down at herself. Before she walked out of the bathroom, she looked at the mirror again and again. The towel was wrapped tightly around her, so she was sure that she was not exposed. It was just that she walked a long way from the bathroom to the balcony, so she was not sure if it was loose. After taking a look, she confirmed that she was not exposed, so she mustered up the courage to walk up. However, her steps were very slow, because Kurosawa was waiting for her in the bathtub. This is too charming. Looking at her shy appearance, Kurosawa Hikaru was really amazed. Unlike the shyness of a girl, the shyness of a royal sister is simply breathtaking. Every move she makes is a fatal temptation, which makes people very excited. Facing his gradually strange gaze, Ninomiya Chizuru felt even more shy, and hurriedly walked up the stairs and entered the hot spring. As her body was covered by the hot spring, her shyness eased a little. Although the hot spring water is similar to normal water, because it is not like the water in the bathhouse that contains various bathing agents, it at least avoids being directly washed. The two of them sat quite far apart, but that was the distance. After all, how big could a private bath be? When the two of them looked at each other, they felt like they were being electrocuted, and they couldn't help but dodge. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 478. It is not suitable to soak in hot springs for too long, 30 minutes is considered overtime. After soaking in the hot springs, both of them put on yukata. It's so cool. Back in the living room, Ninomiya Chizuru sat on a chair and blew on the air conditioner. She felt like a world of ice and fire, and she felt very relaxed. It feels really comfortable to leave work and everything behind and go on vacation. Kurosawa Hikaru sat aside, watching her put on her yukata, and nodded in agreement. She is so beautiful that she looks good in whatever clothes she wears. The way Chizuru puts on her yukata, her whole body exudes a sense of relaxation, which is even more exciting than the shy look she had just wearing a bath towel. Especially the slight smile on her face, he liked it very much. What are you looking at me doing? What's so interesting about it? Ninomiya Chizuru noticed his gaze and spat. But now that she was wearing clothes, her condition had improved a lot, at least she wasn't as shy as she was when she was in the hot springs, unable to say a word. Everything is beautiful, such as your neck, your legs and feet, and your smile. Kurosawa Hikaru didn't deliberately tease her just now. He found that she had regained her energy and responded calmly. You have such a thick skin. When Ninomiya Chizuru heard this compliment, she felt a little happy and shy, and rolled her eyes at him. When we were soaking in the hot spring just now, we didn't do anything, not even chat much, but the experience of soaking in the hot spring together was indelible. Halfway through their candid meeting, she felt that the relationship between them had become much closer. Be honest. Kurosawa shrugged. Although such compliments are nothing to real beauties, because they have heard too many such words since they were young. But to be honest, it doesn't mean it's useless, at least it shows your attitude. The distance between the two people is not far, they are sitting in front of the chairs against the wall, sitting next to each other. Have you been reading the messages that Runa has sent in the group these days? Ninomiya Chizuru thought for a while and asked. Of course I'll take a look. When I return to Tokyo tomorrow, I'll arrange the schedule and go handle some work with her. Kurosawa nodded. He rarely sends messages in the group. After all, he has a close relationship with the two partners in the firm. When chatting privately, some words are more appropriate to say out loud. However, he usually takes time to read the information in line every day. Although she mostly posts data pictures in the group, I can feel that she is very busy with the affairs of the office. Don't forget to reward her and let her take a rest. Reward? How to reward her? Kurosawa's thoughts changed and his tone was strange. Have dinner with her, have a drink with her, something like that. However, Ninomiya Chizuru was not familiar with topics such as talking nonsense and driving, so she just said. Good. Seeing that she didn't follow the path, Kurosawa didn't force her. His 5 girlfriends actually have quite different personalities, and they all have different feelings when getting along with them. For example, Chizuru-san and Runa-san are both royal sisters, and they are both inexperienced. One is ignorant and the other is an old lady. At this moment, his mobile phone placed on the table suddenly vibrated. To be more precise, there was activity on both people's mobile phones. Kurosawa Hikaru picked up his phone and saw a message from the office group, Runa Igarashi. Runa, at 0 hour, I'm going to take some time off these days. I have 2 big contracts to negotiate. Big contract? How big is it? Kurosawa Hikaru was a little surprised, and asked immediately. Tonight is a good day for his hot spring date with Chizuru-san, logically speaking, since Runa-san is so sensible, she shouldn't bother her by sending messages. Runa, Sony Records, Apple Music, and Penguin Music have just contacted me and expressed their willingness to cooperate. The price of the contract is guaranteed to be 10 billion yen, and their conditions are very generous. Runa, they are grabbing the market. If we make good use of it, this contract will definitely enable the firm to fully rise. Seeing this message, Kurosawa Hikaru and Ninomiya Chizuru glanced at each other subconsciously. No wonder Igarashi Runa would send messages at such a time. This is great news. What does 10 billion yen mean? It is enough to achieve financial freedom in Tokyo. Although Kurosawa Hikaru changed his mentality after possessing various skills, he began to not care about money. But after he and Sister Kinhee bought luxury cars and villas together, he had a higher understanding of the purchasing power of money. 100 million yen can buy a super luxury car that ordinary people dream of. With 500 million yen, you can buy a large luxury villa in Tokyo. 10 billion yen, although after equity sharing, it is not exactly 10 billion yen. But the 2 partners of the firm, Chizuru Ninomiya and Runa Igarashi, are both his girlfriends. Kurosawa, Runa, are you kidding? Chizuru Ninomiya, who also picked up her phone and was reading the message, turned her head in disbelief. She knew that Kurosawa had been approached about a 10 billion contract before, but refused. Although she was deceived once by Runa, thinking that Kurosawa refused the contract simply because of her, she later understood the situation. The reason why Kurosawa didn't sign the contract was not only for her, but also because the terms of the contract were unreasonable. For example, he had to work for Kawaii Piano for 3 years, and during the contract period, he had to perform all over the world and serve as an image ambassador. Although she was very tempted by such a contract, she was also well aware of the drawbacks. But now, Runa said that the other party's conditions were very generous, which was obviously a different situation. It shouldn't be a joke. Kurosawa Hikaru shook his head, and after being shocked, he was relieved. In fact, he had long expected that Sony Records would contact him sooner or later. Sony Records is a Japanese company, and it also controls at least 1/3 of the global music publishing market, making it the world's largest music record company. Piano music is different from pop songs. As pure music, it is not limited by national boundaries and is applicable to any country. Many of the 10 piano pieces he sang at the piano recital had achieved the terrifying results of hall-level records in his previous life and became popular all over the world. Some of these piano pieces were popular all over the world even in the era when the internet era was not yet fully popular. In the 20s, when traffic exploded, he suddenly appeared, and his influence was even more powerful, soaring to the sky. Since the concert, although he has been busy dating these days, accompanying one girlfriend and then another, he has also been paying attention to the reports of the agency group. God of Piano. The new leader of the piano world. The superstar of the new era. To put it bluntly, 0 Hour's fame has reached a higher peak after the solo concert, and he is far ahead of others. The data and traffic brought by the soaring sky are extremely amazing, breaking various records, and even pop songs are all his. Hashtag when will 0 Hour's first album be released? Hashtag. This is a hot topic on Twitter, and it is a major event that all fans, audiences, and even peers are paying attention to. It should be noted that the sound quality of the solo concert video and the MV uploaded on YouTube is not the best, which is undoubtedly a pity for fans. Moreover, without a record, fans' enthusiasm for supporting idols has nowhere to be released. However, he was not very good at these things, so he left it to Miss Runa to deal with. He would only wait for them to pile up and then he would take the time to deal with them. Even Penguin Music is here. Kurosawa Hikaru was a little surprised. According to his assumption, the people who would come to him should be Sony and Apple. After all, they are fighting fiercely in the music market. In fact, he has done some research on various things in the music industry. Sony is the biggest leader in the music market, and no one in the world can beat it. Whether it is the physical market or Spotify in the streaming market, it ranks first in the world. Apple Music, ranked second in the world, has been trying to shake Sony's position. As for Penguin Music, its performance in the physical music market is very poor, but it is relatively good in the streaming market, ranking third in the world. Sony and Apple are both world-class companies. Kurosawa, should we go back to Tokyo to discuss the contract? Ninomiya Chizuru's mood was not as calm as his, and she was a little excited. Because if the firm makes money, it means Kurosawa's status and influence, which not only improves his status in her parents' hearts, but also the sales performance is impressive enough, so she has the confidence to negotiate with her parents and resign from the bank. Since the official announcement of Adelina, her work at the bank has become more difficult. Countless people stare at her every day, which is really tiring. What contract to discuss? What time is it? If you want to discuss it, you can talk about it after you wake up tomorrow. Kurosawa Hikaru was a little speechless. Even if it is a big contract, there is no need to be so anxious, and who will discuss a contract with you in the middle of the night? What should we do now? Ninomiya Chizuru calmed down a little and asked. I'll give you a spa first. Kurosawa Hikaru was in a good mood, looking at her slender and tender legs with a squint. The reward for this date is a piano. As long as the task is completed, it will be a perfect piano. Woohoo, the pressure point failed, but Shushu didn't ask for leave. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 479. Isn't it a spa? What are you doing with a basin of water? Let's soak your feet first, and I'll massage them for you later. Good. Ninomiya Chizuru, who was sitting on the chair, raised her beautiful legs and put them into the wooden basin filled with hot water. She was a little nervous. Unlike when she was in Asira Valley, she didn't know what foot control meant. Even if Kurosawa held her feet, warmed her, or did anything else, she felt nothing but touching. Now she knew that Kurosawa liked her feet. As her consciousness changed, she felt a strange feeling in her heart, even more shameful than holding hands. Let me press your shoulders first. Seeing her cooperation, Kurosawa Hikaru walked behind her. Upon hearing this untrue statement, Ninomiya Chizuru took the initiative to scoop it up with her hands, piled the long hair hanging behind her back together, and put it in front of her. With this movement, her snow-white and smooth neck was exposed. In Neon, there is a saying of neck control, that is, some people particularly like the back of girls' necks. What's more, some schools have weird school rules that prohibit girls from wearing ponytails in school, in order to prevent girls from exposing the back of their necks and disturbing others. What a wonderful scenery! Standing behind her, Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Yukata, a style of clothing, is all about comfort and looseness. When standing, you can cultivate your body. As for other times, no matter what kind of posture it is, it has a special charm. Immediately afterwards, Kurosawa Hikaru was not polite and directly put his hands on her back shoulders and started massaging her. As he pressed with his thumb, Ninomiya Chizuru felt a burst of pain and couldn't help but let out a cry. Will it be sore? Kurosawa Hikaru heard her groan and asked knowingly. As soon as he got started, he felt that Sister Kinhe's shoulders were a little stiff. This is a common problem among office workers. People who sit in air-conditioned rooms and offices all year round usually have such symptoms. In addition, girls have more serious shoulder fatigue than boys, especially girls with good figures. Sister Kinhe's size is quite high. Although it is not the explosive level, it is not easy to achieve a forward and backward curvature. A little. Ninomiya Chizuru nodded. In fact, she didn't know if it was soreness, but it was painful anyway. With just this movement, she felt, Kurosawa was really massaging her, not taking advantage of him by touching her in the name of massage. This surprised her and made her a little ashamed. Relax, bear with it, you'll feel better later. Kurosawa explained and continued to massage her. Finally getting a chance to have a real massage, he planned to give Chizuru a full-body massage. Not long after, Kurosawa Hikaru squatted in front of her, put his hands into the tub, and rubbed her feet. Moisturized by the water, Ninomiya Chizuru's beautiful feet were very slippery, as if she were catching a loach. The task progress update washing her feet has been completed. Before he could rub it carefully, Kurosawa's ears rang with the sound of the system. Is it that easy? Upon realizing this, Kurosawa Hikaru was a little surprised. Although most of the tasks in the system are very simple, this foot washing is too literal. He has just started. Putting this mission aside, there are still 2 mission objectives that have not been completed on this date. Kiss 10 times the frequency is 6/10. Today's situation is quite special. I haven't had a kiss yet, but it's not a big problem. I can fix it in one go later. Although this kind of task with repeated requirements must have a time interval. Let her hold you to sleep. Because it is one room, it can be said to be like a Xiongbu house, not 2 rooms, and the difficulty is not very high. He is also very kind to me. Ninomiya Chizuru looked at Kurosawa Hikaru, who was squatting in front of him with his head down, his eyes dazed, and his heart felt a little sweet. If you want to accurately judge a person, it doesn't matter what he says, you have to look at what he does. Even though she knew he was a foot control, the fact that Kurosawa washed her feet touched her and made her feel like she was being treated with tenderness. After a simple scrubbing, Kurosawa took out one of her feet, wiped the water clean with a towel, and began to press the acupoints on the soles of her feet. It hurts a little. As his thumb curled up and pressed, Ninomiya Chizuru's body tensed up a bit, and then she spoke. Perhaps because she had just set a precedent, there was a hint of coquettishness in her voice. Facing Kurosawa, she had already opened her heart, and the mask of adult reserve and pride was taken off. You usually wear high heels too much, and you walked a lot today. Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't do anything about it, explained. Even if his massage skills are perfect, just like a wound that should hurt without anesthesia, Chizuru still has a lot of physical problems. Maybe this is the physique of modern people, most people are sub-healthy. After pressing the acupuncture points on the soles of their feet, they moved to the bed. Although it was a bed, it was just a futon spread on a tatami, not a common modern bed. Essential oil spa is actually similar to applying sunscreen. It must be in direct contact with the skin, but the method is different. You really know how to massage. Different from foot washing and shoulder massage, unbuttoning the belt of the yukata, revealing the snow-white and flawless jade back, Ninomiya Chizuru was lying on the bed, and was surprised when she felt his movements. His technique was very skillful, just like those professional beauty therapists, and it was very comfortable. Why would I lie to you? Kurosawa Hikaru saw that she only reacted at this time, and couldn't help but smile. At noon, Chizuru said that she was very experienced and could feel whether others would massage, but now it seems that her experience is just like that. Once a man and a woman who love each other have skin contact, if they are not disturbed, the relationship will heat up quickly. For example, now, Kurosawa Hikaru first presses the shoulders, then the solace of the feet, pushes the back and opens the shoulders, and then presses the hind legs. In the process of pain and pleasure, he turned over and lay down. 1,000-Mile Dam is destroyed by an ant hole. The defense line in Ninomiya Chizuru's heart collapsed unknowingly. In fact, no one knows whether she has a defense line in her heart. A single man and a single woman, who love each other and spend the night together, and have skin contact, are bound to be a fire that will ignite at any time. 10,000 words omitted. In the morning, Kurosawa Hikaru woke up. When he opened his eyes, the system prompt sounded in his ears. Task progress update, let her hold you to sleep has been completed. Task completed, rewards entry-level piano, entry-level finance investment theory. Because the host already has a piano reward, the mastery level piano is upgraded to the perfect level. With the upgrade of skills and the reward of new skills, countless information flows flooded into his mind. It can be considered a perfect level. Kurosawa Hikaru immediately absorbed the gains from the perfect piano, and was excited and uplifted. Unlike massage and swimming, which are relatively useless skills, the piano skill is very practical and has a strong ability to attract money. The most important thing is that his piano skills are related to the development ceiling of the firm. What's more, now is the critical moment for the rise of the firm. The stronger his skills, the greater the gains. Kurosawa. Just then, Kurosawa Hikaru heard a soft murmur. Looking down, he saw Ninomiya Chizuru's beautiful face, sleeping soundly on his arm. Her bangs and sideburns were a bit messy, or stuck to her fair cheeks, looking inexplicably cute. People are usually in a different state after falling asleep than when they are awake. Because once a person falls asleep, he or she will lose his or her guard, take off his or her usual disguise and mask, and show his or her true self. For example, now, Chizuru's brows are relaxed, and her facial expression is relaxed, which is particularly gentle. No need to leave in a hurry this time. Looking down at her calm and gentle sleeping face, Kurosawa Hikaru felt relieved. He had stayed overnight at Miki's house before, but he had to leave in a hurry before dawn. In fact, he felt guilty, but there was nothing he could do. Because that day, he didn't want to spend the night with Bayu at all, it was just a simple date, or even an ordinary date without a task or a strict plan. If the plan was more meticulous and comprehensive, there would be no situation where he had to leave in a hurry the next day after spending the night. After admiring Ninomiya Chizuru's sleeping face for a while, he continued to organize his new skills. Gains from entry-level finance investment theory. So that's how it is. With the continuous sorting and absorption, Kurosawa Hikaru suddenly felt like he had suddenly realized something, and his eyes lit up. Maybe it was because he originally studied finance, and the feeling brought to him by this new skill was completely different from the previous rewards. The concept of entry-level skills is actually quite scary, which means the height that ordinary people can reach in their entire lives. Experience, knowledge, theory, ideas, every skill can bring him a change in thinking. Maybe there is a difference between ordinary people and geniuses, but looking at the world, 99% are ordinary people, and only a very small number can be called geniuses. To put it simply, he has the time and energy that ordinary people spend 50-60 years on in a short period of time. The accumulated foundation and hard work. With the infusion of the experience and theoretical knowledge of the old financial people, and the change in thinking, he suddenly found that the content that he had memorized by rote in school before, understood but not fully understood, suddenly became clear. Even more, many laws based on theoretical cognition were also enlightening, and he had a clearer cognition. For example, he had an extremely clear and even indelible investment cognition. Financial investment is people-oriented. The value of the investment object does not depend on the company's past performance and scale, but on talent. In fact, he heard this theory more than once in textbooks and classrooms. But no matter how many times he heard it, he was based on theoretical cognition, perhaps knowing that it was correct, and he had seen many case explanations. But the biggest benefit of the skills given by the system is the difference in experience. In addition, there is also a change in thinking. Suddenly, he had a new understanding. Never try to change others. No matter how much you knock on other people's hearts, human nature is ultimately difficult to change. No matter when, the only choice you can make is to change yourself. If you want to change the world that is not what you want, you have to adapt to it even if it is not going your way. This is the only way. Don't try to change, but adapt instead. After spending some time digesting the gains of entry-level investment theory, Kurosawa Hikaru lowered his eyes again and looked at Ninomiya Chizuru, feeling conscious. He was unconscious before, but now looking back, he suddenly discovered many details that he had not noticed before. Sister Kinhee has never tried to change him, nor has she ever wanted him to give up other girls. Her actions and choices are always about taking action. For example, she wanted to date him openly and break the identity barrier 2.5 years in advance. Her choice was to resign from Tokyo University and work in a bank. She never thought that he would have a job in an office. Moreover, his piano skills were very good and he could make a living by his skills. She would not have to go to the bank in the future. She persuaded him to drop out of school. For example, when she accepted his flirtation and wanted to be with him, it seemed like she made a few requests, but in fact, those 3 requests were all things he could easily fulfill. Chizuru Ninomiya once served as an economics teacher at Tokyo University. Her financial theory is much more mature than that of him, a student who has not yet graduated from school. Are you adaptable? In the midst of his thoughts, Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but reach out his hand and gently caress Ninomiya Chizuru's cheek with his fingers, feeling mixed feelings in his heart. There is gratitude, touch, joy, and indebtedness. Following his movements, Ninomiya Chizuru's cattail-like eyelashes trembled slightly and opened her eyes. Maybe it was because she saw someone she liked as soon as she woke up. Her eyebrows were slightly curved, showing a smile. Sister Chizuru, good morning. Seeing her smile, Kurosawa also smiled. Although it was a setback, being able to keep her by his side and her willingness to stay by his side was already the best result. As for that debt, he could only make up for it by being more kind to her. This is also his attitude towards every girl, because they are all devoted to him, but he is half-hearted, which is destined to be unequal. Good morning. Are your hands numb? Ninomiya Chizuru nodded slightly, raised her neck, and stood up slightly. When she and Runa lived together in the past, she often had the experience of sleeping with each other in their arms. She knew that sleeping with someone's arms on his pillow, although they had a close relationship, was actually quite tiring. Why are my hands numb when I hold you? Finding that she was so considerate, Kurosawa raised his hand and pulled her back. Then why did you touch my face and wake me up just now? Ninomiya Chizuru, who once again rested on his arm, straddled his arms and thighs, and hugged him, felt a little happy and puzzled. Because you're so beautiful I can't help myself. Seeing the confusion in her eyes, Kurosawa lowered his head and leaned forward, kissing her soft lips gently. In fact, for him, the appearance of his girlfriend is not the highest priority in a relationship. This is not to say that he doesn't care about face, that would be too hypocritical. It's just that the beautiful appearance is the beginning of his interest and wanting to take the initiative to get to know her. What really attracts him and makes him fall in love is the character hidden under the appearance. For example, Xiaoyuki is strong and dependent, but ignorant. The feeling of loneliness in the future that makes people want to protect her and want to lend a helping hand to her. Sister Kinhee's arrogance, as well as her maturity and gentleness that pampers you and protects you. Ms. Runa's gentleness and cheerfulness, as well as her positive and enterprising spirit. By Yu's straightforward character, as well as her hidden vulnerability and inferiority complex. Don't say such disgusting words. Ninomiya Chizuru's heart almost melted when he kissed her with gentle words, but she still rolled her eyes at him, a bit arrogant. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 480. Kurosawa Hikaru hugged Ninomiya Chizuru, snuggled together, and fell asleep again in a daze. With the blessing of various skills, Kurosawa Hikaru's physical fitness is very strong. He is very strong, has a strong explosive power of speed, super long endurance, and is even heat and cold resistant. Even his ability to resist hunger has become very strong. He can be energetic after sleeping for a few hours a day. However, people are people after all. Under sufficient time management, things are arranged in an orderly manner every day. Kurosawa Hikaru has no idea how long it has been since he slept in. Roughly speaking, it has been at least 2 months, or even longer. What is the most comfortable thing about vacation? It is not to see the scenery or go out to play, but to sleep until you wake up naturally, and then take a nap to sleep until you are full. If 2 people are together, it is even more comfortable. I don't know how long it has been. Kurosawa Hikaru felt that he was gently pushed. Kurosawa Hikaru noticed the movement and woke up immediately. Are you hungry? Ninomiya Chizuru, nestled in his arms, looked up at his eyes and spoke softly. Her voice was a bit lazy and touching. I'm quite hungry. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded without even thinking about this question. In fact, he was not hungry yet, because he had a strong ability to resist hunger under the enhancement of the master level wilderness survival. However, when your girlfriend asks you if you are hungry, it is not just to care about whether you are hungry or not, the key is that she is hungry. At this time, even if he is not hungry, he has to be hungry. Get up. Reaching a consensus with him, Ninomiya Chizuru nodded. You get up first. Kurosawa Hikaru yawned, always feeling more and more sleepy the more he slept, as if the long accumulated fatigue had erupted. I'm still a little tired, lie down for a while, you go wash up first. Ninomiya Chizuru shook her head, gently pushed his chest with her jade hand, and a bit of shyness appeared on her pretty face. It's not like I haven't seen it before. I saw it all last night. Seeing that she was still shy, Kurosawa Hikaru was immediately happy. Get up quickly. He saw through Ninomiya Chizuru's little thoughts, and she was immediately a little embarrassed and annoyed, and pinched him. Okay, okay. Kurosawa Hikaru was pinched, but she didn't feel any pain at all, because her fighting ability was too weak, and she was powerless, but she still acted like she was being controlled and depended on her. After all, she was his woman. If he didn't spoil her, would he let others do it? Immediately, he lowered his head and kissed Ninomiya Chizuru's delicate face heavily, and got out of the bed. He was not wearing clothes, but it didn't matter. As a man, how could he be afraid of being seen naked? He took the yukata next to him and put it on easily, without a belt, and went into the bathroom to wash. Musashino Honkan is a well-known hotel in Hakone. It has high standards and grades, and the bathroom space is quite large. Hualala. With the fierce sound of pumping, Kurosawa Hikari also trembled all over, feeling very comfortable. After solving the urgent need to urinate, Kurosawa Hikari walked to the sink with a wall mirror. Just when he was about to use disposable toiletries, he suddenly changed his mind, turned on the faucet, and then walked towards the door with light steps. Tentatively sticking his head out, he saw Ninomiya Chizuru on the other side of the quilt, already stood up. She had her back to the bathroom, and had already put on a yukata, and was still using a belt to wrap around her slender waist. These legs are really life-threatening. Although the yukata was put on, covering most of the skin, Kurosawa Hikari sighed as he looked down. Under the yukata, the pair of smooth and straight legs that were jade-like and sleek, fascinated him last night. If a beautiful face is an appetizer that whets people's appetite, then a beautiful figure is the main course that makes people want to taste it. At this moment, Ninomiya Chizuru, who was facing the bathroom with her back, vaguely noticed the sight and turned her head suddenly. However, when she turned her head, she was not able to catch it. The door of the bathroom was empty. After a while, Kurosawa Hikari waited for Ninomiya Chizuru to come in. "What's wrong?" Looking at her resentful and suspicious eyes, Kurosawa Hikari, whose face was wet with water, was very calm. "It's okay." Seeing that he was not guilty at all, Ninomiya Chizuru was helpless and shook her head. After a simple wash, it was time to dress up. "So beautiful." Kurosawa Hikari, who had already taken out clean clothes from his backpack and changed, came to the bathroom again, leaned against the door and looked at the mirror, and praised Ninomiya Chizuru, who was dressing up and preparing to change her appearance. She was wearing a light blue suspender dress, with right-angled shoulders and charming collarbones. Standing straight in front of the mirror, with her hands crossed behind her, she was putting her hair up, with a proud and graceful figure. Chizuru Ninomiya, who was fixing her hair, rolled her eyes at him and didn't say anything. After being rolled her eyes by her, Kurosawa Hikaru felt like he was electrocuted, trembling all over, and then he started to click his tongue. It is said that girls are divided into two types, one is a virgin girl, and the other is a woman who has been in love. This is true. After being nurtured by love, Chizuru Ninomiya's charm has reached a higher level. Although her temperament is still cold and elegant, the charming and soft femininity can no longer be concealed. Between her frowns and smiles, she is full of charm. Just because after the baptism of love, she became more deeply aware of the fact that she was a woman. Musashi no Honkan offers 2 meals per stay, which means that after check-in, 2 meals are included in the accommodation fee. As for other expenses, such as essential oils and the third meal, there is an additional charge. After having lunch, they set off on their way home. The distance between Tokyo and Hakone is not far. You can return on the same day and save high accommodation fees, but it will be too tiring. On the way back, Kurosawa Hikaru drove because Chizuru was unwell and needed to recuperate. When I got home, it was already past 2 p.m. After taking a short rest, Kurosawa took a shower again and went to tutoring classes. He will have to go back to his hometown later, and he hasn't been back for a whole semester. It will take a few days to guarantee the guarantee, and he will definitely ask for leave. Let the future know in advance. On Wednesday morning, Igarashi Runa woke up, yawned, walked out of the room and went to the toilet. There has been a lot of work recently, so she stayed overnight at the office. The office is different from home in that there is no independent bathroom. It is very luxurious to have bathrooms on each floor. After using the toilet, she originally wanted to go back to the room to change clothes, but she saw a light coming from the lounge. "Didn't you turn off the lights last night?" Runa Igarashi, who was half asleep, muttered something to himself and walked over. When she came to the lounge, she stretched out her hand to turn off the light. But at the moment when the lights were turned off, she vaguely saw a figure. "Is there anyone?" Igarashi Runa was shocked to learn this, and the sleepiness of not having enough sleep suddenly disappeared, and she woke up with a fright. The next moment, she didn't need to hesitate and turned on the light again. People have an instinctive fear of darkness, because being invisible means unknown. When the lights came on again, she could clearly see the figure that had just flashed by. It was a man, wearing a shirt and trousers, with a gentle and elegant temperament, sitting on the sofa holding a mobile phone. "Good morning." The person in the lounge was Hikaru Kurosawa. Seeing her look of surprise, he smiled and said hello. Kurosawa, why are you here so early? Didn't I say I would pick you up? When Igarashi Runa found out it was him, she felt relieved immediately, and then became confused. She had an appointment with a client today, and she knew she was going to meet Kurosawa today, but she didn't expect to see him when she woke up. It's faster if I take the car, and I can let you sleep a little longer. Maybe it was the agreement last night, but Kurosawa looked at the corners of her eyes with dark circles and explained. Sure enough, it was just as he guessed. He went on vacation and naturally slept until he was full. However, after the recital, all kinds of odd-hour work fell on her. It was natural for him to be the hands-off shopkeeper, but in contrast, Miss Runa had to do more. I don't meet the client until 9:30. It's only 7:30 now. You're too early. Igarashi Runa, who was standing at the door, stepped forward and looked up at the wall clock on the wall. It's not early, you go and get some sleep. I'll call you after I've made breakfast at 8:30. Kurosawa shook his head and coaxed her. Anyway, he woke up and played on his mobile phone at home and at the office, so he might as well go out early. What's more, if you come to the office early in the morning, the possibility of being seen will be lower. Perhaps with brother Shinichi helping to make calls and serve as background, major mainstream media would not send paparazzi to follow people from zero-hour agency. But even if you have powerful hands and eyes, it is impossible to control everyone. For example, YouTubers and fanatical fans are very dangerous existences, although they are not usually there. What if it happens? You are so mysterious. How could I still fall asleep after being frightened by you? Igarashi Runa noticed his good intentions and felt pampered. She walked forward wearing slippers, seemingly complaining, but she was acting coquettishly and coquettishly. I didn't want to scare you, who knew you? We'll turn off the lights immediately. Kurosawa Hikaru was a little helpless, but his eyes kept wandering over her body. Miss Runa, who had just woken up, was wearing a breast-hugging vest and a pair of loose hot pants. She was rich and generous. And her beautiful legs, although in terms of length, they are definitely not as good as those of Chizuru and Mirai, who are both 1.7 meters tall and have model-like figures. But beautiful legs are never judged by their length. The key is to be well proportioned. What are you looking at? Igarashi Runa was stared at by his direct gaze, and she also reacted. She was still wearing relatively cool and comfortable sleeping clothes, and a blush suddenly flew over her face, and she glanced at him. Although she was a little shy, she did not run away, but sat down next to him, folded her legs and laid them on her side. You will be at the top of the mountain, and you will be able to see all the mountains at a glance. Kurosawa Hikaru sighed when he saw that she did not leave, but sat next to her. In terms of arms, thighs, and waist, Miss Runa may not be as good as other girls, but in terms of wealth, she is definitely the richest. Tokyo's most affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 481. After joking, Igarashi Runa rolled her eyes and felt embarrassed for a while, and then went to wash up. After washing up and putting on a formal suit, she came back. She wore a shirt, a small suit, a plaid skirt, and ultra-thin and flesh-colored stockings. She looked formal, sexy, and charming. It may be a formal dress, but it is different from the standard OL beauty. This is related to her good at fashionable dressing. Even though she had just woken up and had not had time to put on makeup, she still looked extremely beautiful without makeup and after combing her hair. This was her natural beauty. Real beauties are usually surrounded by beauties. Not everyone yearns for the sun. If you are not good looking enough, hanging out with beautiful women will inevitably be regarded as green leaves lining flowers, making people feel like they are playing supporting roles, and they will feel unbalanced. Are you really not going to go back and sleep for a while? I think you were very sleepy just now. Kurosawa Hikaru looked at her beautiful appearance and liked it very much, but also asked. She went back to take a nap, which was enough time. It's okay, I'll just have a cup of coffee later. Igarashi Runa shook her head and sat next to him with a few planning books. And you finally had time to come to me. It would be a waste if you went back to sleep. When the conversation changed, Runa Igarashi held the plan and looked at him sideways. This guy is a very busy man. After all, he has so many girlfriends. Even if he counts one girl per day, it will be her turn at least once every 5 days. But in fact, the real time cannot be calculated like this. After all, she also has a job, and the office is in its infancy and has not yet entered a stable period. She does not even have a vacation. Then sleep together. Knowing her thoughts, Kurosawa Hikaru suggested. Sure. Igarashi Runa has never been afraid of teasing, and she did not refuse the offer. Forget it, I still have work to do later. Noticing her brave counterattack, Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but take another look at her heavy fruit and gave up the thought. The more he eats the marrow and knows the taste, the lower his concentration will be. If he really wanted to run to a bed and sleep, he was afraid that if he didn't hold back, he would miss the gun and go off. There is still business to be done later, and it is early in the morning. Factors such as timing and atmosphere are not even as good as that night at Bayu's house. Seeing that he didn't dare, Igarashi Runa guessed what he was thinking and giggled non-stop, her flowers trembling. Maybe it's because she has never been in a relationship and has never had a boyfriend, but she has been in the entertainment industry and has seen too many different kinds of people, and she knows how charming she is. Laugh, 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 keep laughing. Seeing her proud look, Kurosawa's thoughts were revealed, and he immediately became annoyed and reached out to scratch her waist and armpits. Ah, ha ha ha, are you angry with shame? Igarashi Runa was not afraid after being scratched by him. She just laughed and twisted her body, trying to escape. However, in the face of her subconscious attempt to escape, Kurosawa Hikaru grabbed her with his arm, pulled her into his arms and continued to scratch her. Ah, stop scratching, I'm not laughing anymore. Igarashi Runa, who was still provocative at first, found out that he had caught her and fell into his hands, and she quickly realized her mistake. After playing around for a while, they got down to business. For example, Kurosawa Hikaru went to cook breakfast, while Igarashi Runa went to put on makeup. Your cooking skills are amazing, and this miso soup is so delicious. At the dining table, Igarashi Runa took a sip of miso soup, then stretched out her fragrant pink tongue and licked the corners of her mouth, feeling happy. Under the table, a pair of beautiful feet wrapped in flesh-colored ultra-thin stockings swayed in the slippers. I have to say that Kurosawa came so far in advance and really gave her a big surprise. How was it? Did you enjoy your visit to Hakone this time? While eating breakfast, Igarashi Runa also inquired. In fact, she wanted to ask yesterday, but because Kurosawa said he was free today and could come to the office, she simply waited until they met. Very happy. Kurosawa nodded and looked at her sideways. For him, the biggest unexpected gain from this trip to Hakone Hot Springs was seeing Miss Runa's former appearance. Miss Runa, who is still in college and has long hair, is young and beautiful. Comfortable. Igarashi Runa changed the subject, with a teasing look in his eyes. It was hard for her to ask Kinzuru, after all, this kind of thing was too private, but she wasn't afraid to ask Kurosawa. After all, their way of getting along is relatively relaxed, with no taboos and all kinds of dirty jokes and oral sex. Comfortable. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded again. This is comfortable and can be summarized in many aspects. Soaking in hot springs, watching the scenery, sleeping, and doing various things with Sister Chizuru. So good. Igarashi Runa's eyes were mischievous. He looked left and right, and when he got a positive answer from between the lines, he couldn't help but sigh. Don't be envious. Next time we go out to play, we can make you feel more comfortable. Kurosawa Hikaru ate his breakfast and looked at her sideways. Is it really comfortable? Igarashi Runa looked at him with charming eyes. It was discovered that those with higher defenses could not be broken through. Even the battle-hardened Hikaru Kurosawa was the first to be defeated. What are these planning books? Simply, he chose to change the topic and turned his attention to the planning file aside. Sony, Apple, and Penguin have letters of intent for cooperation. They have their requirements. Take a look first. Seeing that he didn't dare to answer, Igarashi Runa stopped teasing him and explained. Who will come first later? Kurosawa Hikaru nodded and asked again. I made an appointment with Sony first. After all, it is a Japanese company, and Sony Music can be said to be the strongest. Igarashi Runa was a little happy when she talked about this. She took a plan and handed it to him. You know, it is a great honor for an artist to be contacted by Sony for cooperation. Even Fujiwara Rika, who is popular all over the country, has cooperated with Sony, but it was Phantom Star Agency who took the initiative to contact her. Sony's strength is the strongest, but it doesn't mean that he is the best partner. Kurosawa Hikaru took it, muttered to himself, and started to read it. In the contract format, it is usually divided into Party A and Party B, which is a synonym for both parties' equal subjects, and it is also for the convenience of using abbreviations in the following statements. Of course, since Party A is the party that proposes the goal, it is mainly the party that proposes what goal to achieve during the contract drafting process and is the dominant party of the contract. And Party A is generally the contributor or investor, that is, the main body of the operation, and is in a dominant position. In short, the stronger the economic strength of Party A, although it means abundant funds, it also means stronger voice. No matter who the object is, look at the conditions first, as long as the conditions are suitable. Igarashi Runa also agrees with this. She did not study finance, but she has rich work experience and naturally figured out a lot of truths. The content of the business plan is usually concise, unlike the contract with too many regulations, mainly to express the willingness to cooperate and put forward its own conditions. Sony's condition is to buy out his song copyright and album agency rights for 13 billion yen. His physical album can only be sold by Sony on his behalf, and the sales profit is divided into 50%. His digital album can only be sold on Sony Music's streaming software, Spotify, and 50% of the digital album sales profit. There is no need for routine performances and offline performances, but there must be at least 2 promotional shoots a year, and an album must be released every 2 years. The initial cooperation period is 10 years. The agent sent by Sony yesterday said that the price of physical albums is usually 3,000–3,500 yen. According to the price of 3,500 yen, if 30 million copies are sold, it will be a turnover of 100 billion yen. Igarashi Runa was sitting next to him, leaning over to read the plan with him, and couldn't wait to speak after he finished reading it. This price is too scary. If 0 Hour's album can really reach the album sales record of Neon, with sales exceeding 30 million copies, the income will be unimaginable. Even if it is a 50% share, it will be a lot of money. You know, after she graduated, she worked hard for so many years, and even became a gold medal agent, but she only earned more than 100 million yen. In fact, she slept very well these 2 days, and her mood was so happy. The night before yesterday, when Sony, Apple, and Penguin Music, all of which are world-class super companies, called to contact her, she was so excited. After meeting and negotiating yesterday and formulating a preliminary cooperation agreement, she woke up from laughter twice last night. He is talking about turnover, not deducting the cost, operation, tax, etc. Hearing his words, Kurosawa Hikaru's heartbeat also accelerated a bit, but seeing her eyes shining and excited to the point of forgetting everything, he calmed down and reminded her. If he guessed correctly, although Miss Runa is an agent, she should not have been in charge of the operation and financial departments, and has no concept or experience in this area. Even if these are deducted, you can still make a lot, and I haven't counted the sales of digital albums. After this reminder, Igarashi Runa was stunned for a moment, and suddenly woke up, but she was not worried about it. Let's take a look at the conditions of the other two companies first. Kurosawa Hikaru found that she was completely attracted by the sky-high price, and he was not in a hurry to wake her up, but looked at other plans. In fact, what Miss Runa said just now also scared him. In fact, he had long known that the most profitable way for singers was not concerts, but albums. However, he really didn't expect that the amount of sales reaching 30 million would be so exaggerated. If he seized this opportunity, he and the agency would become rich overnight, and he could also pull Sister Chizuru out of the bank she didn't like. He said if there was no profit sharing, but self-released, what a terrifying profit it would be. No wonder Sony, Apple, Penguin Music, three super companies of the Fortune 500 level, came to him together. It must be well estimated. Looking at the plan, Kurosawa Hikaru's mind was very active. It must be said that the entry-level financial investment concept reward really came at a very timely time, which directly raised his views on investment and value. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 482. Neon people have the habit of being punctual and very particular about not being late. This is the result of social and self-discipline. Whether it is for a date or for work, you will never be late, or even arrive early. The people from Sony are here. I'll go and receive them first. I'll send you a message later. At 9:20, Runa Igarashi picked up the phone and took a look at it, then suddenly stood up. Good. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded slightly, sitting at the table using his laptop, still looking up information. As the saying goes, know yourself and the enemy and you will be victorious in every battle. Only by knowing your own value and understanding your enemy's needs and weaknesses can you fight for favorable conditions for yourself. He was not only checking the traffic data results of 0 Hour, but also checking the situation of Sony Music. Sony is Sony, and Sony Music is Sony Music. Although they are a whole, they must be investigated separately. Fortune 500 companies are usually divided into multiple departments, responsible for different areas. As 0 Hour, he has basically ignored it after playing the piano during this period. He has not paid attention to the fans' response, the data of the video, as well as the speed of spread and influence. To say that he knows nothing is not wrong, because Runa Igarashi often posts some data charts in the partner group. However, the results are not enough, but the process must be understood. A large company must make decisions before acting, and it is rare to act impulsively. Because every cooperation and investment involves a large amount of funds and interests, it is of great importance. At the very least, you must fully understand the matter and analyze the pros and cons before taking action. Igarashi Runa had already tidied up her appearance, she just needed to put on high heels to be perfect. She walked all the way down from the 3rd floor to the front door. She fiddled with her hair again, looked at her clothes from top to bottom, made sure they were correct, and opened the door. I'm very sorry that I couldn't greet you as soon as possible and kept you waiting for a long time. Igarashi Runa was not surprised when she saw 3 people outside the door, but expressed her apology. As she said hello, she also observed the combination of 1 woman and 2 men. The leading woman is in her prime, beautiful, capable, and confident. This woman, whom she had met yesterday, was named Takeda Emma. She was the proposer and agent of this cooperation project. The man on the right looks to be about 30 years old. He is wearing a crisp suit and has gold-rimmed eyes. His expression is calm and he looks very serious. Although they were not able to see this man yesterday, they had met him before. Kazuki Amuro, the legal department of Sony Music, and Rika Fujiwara of Fantasy Star firm had collaborated with Sony Music once, and he was also here when the contract was drafted. On the left is a middle-aged man. He is relatively thick, not tall enough, and has some belly. He has obviously gained weight in middle age. There are already traces of age on his face. He is also wearing a suit, but he exudes aura. After just one meeting, she knew in her heart that this middle-aged man should have the highest status among the three people. It doesn't matter, we arrived early, Miss Igarashi, I am Oga Musashi, the Vice President of Sony Music Entertainment Co., Limited, this is our first meeting. Please give me your advice. Just as she had guessed, the middle-aged man, Oga Musashi shook his head and smiled, then took the initiative to extend his hand and introduce himself. I am Igarashi Runa. This is my first time meeting you. Please give me your advice. After learning his identity, Igarashi Runa was a little surprised and bowed. Daihi, if she remembered correctly, the last name of the former president of Sony was this. In Neon, Sony is one of the most famous brands. Although Sony Music is a subsidiary, being able to serve as a subsidiary executive has such a high status that he is among the top big names in the country. In Neon, the greeting etiquette includes bowing, shaking hands, and performing namaste. When men and women meet for the first time, they usually bow to each other and pass business cards to each other, but usually do not shake hands. Only old friends or relatively familiar people will shake hands. Miss Igarashi, it is said that you have a sharp eye and are very accurate in judging people. Every artist you sign has great potential, and you also signed Mr. Zero Hour, which shocked the industry and is known as the strongest agent. When I see you now, I didn't expect you to be so young and so beautiful, it's really surprising. Oga Musashi saw that she did not shake hands with him, his eyes darkened, but he smiled and praised her, his voice was very gentle, giving people an approachable feeling, and his eyes as he looked at her were a little fiery. He never expected that the head of Zero Hour Agency, Igarashi Runa, would be so beautiful. She has an oval face, beautiful eyes like water, beautiful eyebrows like the moon, a small nose, and red lips like fire. She is elegant and dignified. She has shoulder-length short hair and a capable and refreshing temperament. Even if she wears more formal clothes, she can't hide her plumpness. Extremely confusing. Especially her figure, convex and curvy, sexy and hot, with graceful curves. Under the plaid skirt, wrapped in flesh-colored stockings, her plump and soft legs are extremely eye-catching. Such appearance conditions are comparable to those of idol artists, or even better. Because idol artists are generally young and beautiful, but they are too young. And this Miss Igarashi is very mature, has outstanding abilities, is confident and generous, and has an outstanding temperament. She is just like a young woman, with infinite charm in every move of her hands and feet. Thank you for the compliment, Mr. Daihi. The strongest agent is just a fan's word. I am still a newcomer in the industry compared to seniors like you. Igarashi Runa has been in the workplace for a long time and is very sensitive to eyesight. She noticed that his eyes were looking at her, and she felt disgust in her heart, but she did not show it on her face and smiled slightly. How can it be just one-sided words from fans? This is affirmed by the industry. No one else could invite a piano master like Mr. Zero Hour, but you signed him. This is ability. You are so young, you start a business and become the boss, it's much better than this old guy like me. Oga Musashi really wanted to get closer to her, and he was not shy about praising her. How can Mr. Daihi be an old man? He is still very young. Seeing his enthusiasm, Igarashi Runa could only give in and say nice things. Sony brought a big contract today, and this guy is a talker. Even if he hates it, he can only accommodate it. How can you still be young? I'm already old. Compliments from beautiful women are very useful to men, especially Oga Musashi. He was extremely happy to find that she didn't feel old, but he still pretended to be inappropriate. Seeing his smiling face, Igarashi Runa was a little helpless. She was very clear about her own charm. She is 28 years old this year. Compared with the 20-year-old Kurosawa, she may be a little older. In the eyes of others, she is suspected of being an old cow eating young grass, but for a middle-aged greasy man of 40-50 years old, around 30 years old, but it's just right. When she was working at Huansing office, everyone, whether they were colleagues or superiors, had a crush on her, and they would use various excuses to meet her and have physical contact with her all day long. For example, if you want to shake her hand, if you see her working, you will walk up to her and want to give her some advice, and then you will accidentally reach out and try to touch her shoulder. However, she has developed very well since she was a child. Her mother also noticed this and strictly warned her to develop a strong sense of caution when she was still young. She never gave her a chance, just like before, be alert in advance. However, the more she doesn't give her a chance, the more others want her. Every time she went to work at Huansing office, most of her male colleagues stared at her like a pack of wolves looking for a piece of meat, which made her physically and mentally exhausted. After all, it's tiring to go to work, and you have to be wary of others and stay vigilant for a long time. Because of this, when Kurosawa proposed starting a business, she made the decision in a short time. There were many reasons for her resignation. She believes in her abilities and is confident of making a comeback. She doesn't like that kind of working environment and has long been fed up with it. It's okay for a male boss to deliberately make things difficult for her because he can't take advantage of her. The same goes for a female boss. No matter how good she is still just a subordinate. Moreover, she has already bought a house and a car, so she has no mortgage or car loan to bear, which completely solves the problem of housing and transportation. Even if her business failed, she would at most be living in a tight situation. If that didn't work out, she could still nibble on her best friend, work as a nanny for Kinzuru, and so on. She had long wanted to resign. Kurosawa's proposal, as well as the talents and potential he showed, were just the opportunity to lead her to break out. Mr. Dehi, we are still standing at the door. Why not go in first and sit down to chat slowly? After chatting for a while, Takeda Emma, who came to discuss the project yesterday, looked at the forced smile of Igarashi Runa with some sympathy, and when the time was almost right, he made a suggestion. Following her suggestion, everyone naturally agreed. Soon, the three people sent by Sony entered the office one after another. Is this Igarashi-san's office? Oga Musashi came to the office and found that the space was a bit small, but the smell in the room was pleasant, so he asked. I'm sorry to entertain you in such an informal place. It's just that our office has just been established and hasn't had time to expand yet. Igarashi Runa nodded slightly, very sorry. Using the office as a conference room was barely enough to receive project leaders from some small and medium-sized companies, but it seemed too small-minded to receive big names from such Fortune 500 companies. She also had some regrets about this matter. What she initially thought was that the office had just started, so she could just find a place with a reasonable rent and full functions. She didn't have to pursue the best and could use her money wisely. Unexpectedly, Kurosawa's influence as Zero was so terrifying. The debut song became a hit all over the internet, and he served as the curtain call guest at the second event. He became a god in the first battle. With every event, 0's fame grew explosively. In just 2 months, Ling Shi transformed from an unknown person to a world-famous piano master, attracting such a big shot. It doesn't matter. I quite like it here. It's not formal enough but more relaxed. Oga Musashi waved his hand, not caring at all, very generous. Seeing what he said, Igarashi Runa stopped being polite and asked them to sit down first. Although the mahjong is small, it is well equipped and functions as a conference room. The layout of the sofa area is very particular. A large coffee table with 3-seat-long sofas on both sides can easily distinguish Party A from Party B, but it cannot accommodate multiple representatives at the same time like the reception room of Huansing firm. Guests and hosts followed suit, and Runa Igarashi came to the sofa area and stood there, inviting them to sit down. It's a bit crowded. However, something unexpected happened. Oga Musashi, who had already sat down, stood up with a grunt as his two subordinates sat down, and suddenly walked towards Igarashi Runa. He really knows how to be a monster. Seeing his actions, Igarashi Runa naturally understood that he wanted to sit on the same sofa with her, and frowned, feeling sullen. These two sofas are both 3-seater models. Unless there are 3 super fat people, they will definitely be enough to sit on them. Miss Igarashi, can I sit here? The distance across the coffee table was only a few steps, and Oga Musashi walked closer. He did not sit down directly, but asked with a smile. She had already been generous once and didn't stick to trivial matters. This time it was her turn. Mr. Dehi, this sofa represents Party B, and you are the representative of Party A. I'm afraid it's not appropriate to sit here. Igarashi Runa, who was sitting in the middle of the sofa, had long been accustomed to this kind of trick and smiled. Being in the entertainment industry, she has seen too many different kinds of people. It is no exaggeration to say that most of the investors in the entertainment industry are lustful people who want to make unwritten rules and operate secretly. Everyone knows. She is very disgusted with unspoken rules and never compromises, but she still makes a name for herself by relying on her bottom line and hard work. If I don't accept unspoken rules, you won't cooperate with me, but there will always be someone willing to cooperate with me. That sofa is too small and a bit cramped. Seeing that she did not agree, but clearly refused, Oga Musashi pointed to the sofa with his backhand and reiterated his troubles. His implication seemed to be, is this how you receive me? Master 0 Hour will be here soon. If you sit down on this sofa, there will be 3 of us. It will also be a bit crowded. Please forgive me. Igarashi Runa knew very well that if you take a step back, the enemy would advance even further. He felt bitter and helpless in his heart, but with a smile on his face, he explained in a gentle voice. It seems that this time is the same as before, because the appearance of her and Fujiwara Rika is so superior that Party A has a twisted idea and wants to take advantage of the cooperation. Fine. Seeing that she didn't agree with this, Oga Musashi didn't say anything more, but his face darkened, and he turned around and went back. In just a few steps, he sat back down in the center of Party A, but his expression was no longer smiling and approachable, but gloomy and serious. We came to your company 10 minutes early, and the cooperation is full of sincerity. There were so many people at the gate, so forget it if he didn't come to greet you. It's already 9:30, why hasn't Mr. 0 Hour shown up yet? Oga Musashi, who was sitting in the middle seat, raised his arm and looked at his watch before asking. Because of the small conflict just now, his attitude changed. He was no longer friendly and approachable, but cold and domineering. He didn't know how to flatter himself. He brought at least 13 billion yen, which is a sky-high price contract from all over the world. But this woman has this attitude. I'm not even willing to sit on a sofa, and I've refused it twice. What does that mean? Dislike him? Do you really think he will spoil her if she is a beautiful woman? To him, what is the difference between a woman who can only look at but not touch, and a man? Master 0 Hour's identity is relatively sensitive. I need to confirm it before letting him show up. I will contact him immediately. Please forgive me. Confirmed. What do you want to confirm? Confirm that we are not suspects, etc. Oga Musashi's words were sharp and even more aggressive. I want to confirm your company's willingness to cooperate before contacting Mr. Zero Hour. You also know that Zero Hour's true identity is too sensitive, and the fewer people who know about it, the better. When Igarashi Runa heard what he said, his expression suddenly changed. What he said was too much. She met and negotiated with the representatives of Party A, confirmed the good cooperation intention, and then contacted Zero Hour. This was her approach after consideration. Once cooperation begins, we are in the same boat and will not do things that harm others or benefit ourselves, such as exposing Zero Hour's true face. Isn't our willingness to cooperate obvious enough? The vice president came to talk in person and visited the site 10 minutes in advance. Mr. Zero Hour's arrogance is really big, even bigger than the president of Sony. Oga Musashi snorted and didn't listen to her words at all. Your current attitude is not obvious. At this moment, a low and magnetic voice sounded from the door. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 483. The person who came was naturally Kurosawa Hikaru. Although he had agreed with Igarashi Runa to wait for information as usual. But considering that the identity of the partner this time was quite special, a large enterprise at the level of the Fortune 500, he chose to wait and see the situation on the third floor. Through the window, he could not hear the conversation clearly, but he could see that one of the three people sent by Sony this time was particularly concerned about Runa. What's more, this person ignored Neon's greeting gift and wanted to shake hands when they met for the first time. He shook hands with Mirai at the Chasing Wind dojo. It seemed that it was their first meeting, but in fact they had known each other for a long time, but they just met again that time. When he realized this, he immediately became uneasy and went downstairs when they walked into the office. Oga Musashi saw someone suddenly run out to interrupt the conversation, squinted his eyes, and looked at him. He was tall, handsome, and had fair skin. Although he was unfamiliar, he looked only in his 20s. I think he was an artist of Zero Time Agency. A mere artist dared to speak in front of him, really ignorant of the height of heaven and earth. Not to mention that he is unknown, it is estimated that he is a third-rate artist who has just debuted. Even if he is a nationally famous artist, he has to be respectful in front of him. In front of capital, artists are nothing. Ms. Igarashi, your artist does not know the rules. What is it to eavesdrop on business talks outside the door? With a preliminary judgment in his mind, Oga Musashi looked very contemptuous. He did not talk to him at all, but looked at Igarashi Runa and said dissatisfiedly. Although this agency is a small company, the company's facade is very ordinary, and even the space it occupies is very small. But the mountain is not high, but it is famous if there are immortals, the water is not deep, but it is magical if there are dragons. In this small company, there is a person like Master Zero Time, which is extraordinary. Mr. Oga, please allow me to introduce, this is Mr. Zero Time. Igarashi Runa did not care about this, but just stood up and introduced them. As soon as this was said, the three people sent by Sony were stunned. Is this Master Zero Hour? Takeda Emma widened her eyes and lost her voice in shock. Amuro Nakanoki is a professional lawyer in Sony's legal department. She has experienced countless big scenes. She didn't say anything, but just adjusted her gold-rimmed glasses with her hand to calm her shock. Ms. Igarashi, are you sure you are not kidding me? He is only in his early 20s. Oga Musashi was also stunned and couldn't believe it. What a joke, as the vice president of Sony Music, he has seen countless musicians, even various music masters, and he often deals with them. He has been in the industry for many years and has seen piano geniuses, such as Lang Lang, who is world famous before the age of 30 and is even selected as one of the top 10 pianists in the world. But even Lang Lang has an insurmountable gap with Master Zero Hour. Because Lang Lang is a pianist, and Master Zero Hour is a pianist and composer. A piano recital, 10 piano pieces, except for the Bells and Flight of the Bumblebee, the other 8 pieces are all internationally famous as soon as they are released. The arrangement style is varied, the technique is gorgeous and superb, and the posture during the performance can bring people a shocking and endless aftertaste. It is not an exaggeration to say that Master Zero is known as the god of piano, because his piano pieces are different from classical piano pieces. Many of them are between classical and popular, and even have the ability to break barriers. His rise is extremely terrifying, and he has an influence and potential beyond imagination. No. Igarashi Runa saw the surprise and doubt on their faces, and was completely relieved, shaking her head calmly. Perhaps Kurosawa created many miracles for her and brought her countless shocks. Or she felt that Kurosawa was her man, which made her extremely proud. She was stunned by Oga Musashi's face just now, and as Kurosawa stepped forward, she emerged with infinite confidence. At his age, even if he has been practicing piano since his mother's womb, he can't have the piano skills of Master Zero Time, right? When Oga Musashi saw her relieved and lightly smiling expression, a fire suddenly rose in his heart and he questioned. The other 2 people also shared this view. The higher you stand, the farther you can see. There are indeed geniuses in this world, and there is a dimensional gap between them and ordinary people. But even so, knowing that Master Zero Time is such a young man makes them feel unwilling to admit it. Because in their hearts, Master Zero Time is beyond imagination, mysterious and powerful. Based on the views of industry insiders, they guessed that Master Zero Time should be a middle-aged man with an unremarkable appearance, but who has practiced piano skills for many years. Although Adeline once said that Master Zero Time is less than 30 years old this year, but in their opinion, that was just a polite remark to fans. After all, from the fans' point of view, the younger the Master Zero Time is, the more powerful he is. Faced with their shock, Igarashi Runa couldn't help but sneak a glance at Kurosawa Hikaru who was walking over. In fact, she couldn't understand this either, especially since she knew that in addition to piano, Kurosawa was also good at archery, reading, painting, photography, parkour, and had a wide range of interests. She didn't know where Kurosawa got so much energy to take care of so many interests and hobbies at the same time, and he could do each one so well. Maybe this is genius. It takes others an unknown amount of time to reach a height, but Kurosawa can reach that level easily. Why isn't it possible? Kurosawa Hikaru walked to Party B's sofa, stood next to Igarashi Runa, sat down directly, and responded. Seeing his clean movements, Igarashi Runa also sat down with peace of mind. It must be said that Kurosawa's sudden appearance saved her a lot of trouble. Because she refused to shake hands, refused to sit with him, and made it clear that she didn't want to get too close to him, Oga Musashi became angry with him, and his words were even more aggressive and mean. You say you are Zero Hour, and you are making no excuses. How are you going to prove that you are Zero Hour master? Oga Musashi saw Igarashi Runa naturally sitting next to the young man, and sitting very close, almost with the slightest movement, his thighs could touch each other, and the anger in his heart became more intense, and he asked. This bitch was obviously unwilling to shake hands with him or sit on the same sofa, but she seemed eager to get close to such a young man. Even if there is another city, it is difficult to cover up the violent mood swings. Just like what you said is empty talk, before I prove that I am Zero Hour, I want to see your company's sincerity and attitude first. Kurosawa met his gaze and did the opposite. I want to confirm first that you are Zero Hour. The contract we brought is worth at least 13 billion yen. It is of great importance and is a commercial secret. Oga Musashi saw that he was confident, so he did not offend him, but expressed his attitude in a neutral manner. Even if the contract has not yet been signed, but the amount involved is too large, it is also a commercial secret and cannot be known to unknown persons. At the same time, Sony legal department lawyer, Amuro Naoki opened his mouth in time. As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere in the office suddenly became solemn. What lawyers say is usually more serious because it seems like they are telling the rules. Rules have a restrictive effect and can give people a sense of oppression. Do I have to prove it first? However, Kurosawa Hikaru didn't know who he was, and he didn't care about his origins. He just raised his eyes and looked at Oga Musashi with cold eyes. This old guy wants to take advantage of Miss Runa, but if he can't take advantage of her, he dares to put on airs and becomes angry and makes things difficult for others. If this was not modern times, but in ancient times, he would have beaten people long ago. What the hell? I have shown my sincerity and attitude, it's your turn. Oga Musashi nodded, his attitude serious and serious. He sneered in his heart. He wanted to see how this young man could prove that he was 0 Hour. Master 0 Hour is not just a mask or a set of clothes. His essence is that he has reached the pinnacle of perfection and is able to amaze everyone with his piano skills. Is this your attitude and sincerity in asking for cooperation? Miss Runa, please see the guests off. Seeing that he didn't listen to his words at all and still asked himself to prove it first, Kurosawa smiled and waved his hand. After that, he didn't say any more nonsense, stood up and turned around to leave. See a visitor out. Oga Musashi didn't expect that his attitude would be so domineering and he wouldn't give in, and he was stunned. I'm sorry to ask you all to come and let this negotiation end here. To be honest, Igarashi Runa was also shocked, but when she saw Kurosawa's angrily leaving figure, she could only follow the instructions, stand up, lower her head slightly and bow to see the guest off. Although she is a gold medal agent, she is mainly responsible for negotiating business plans with various companies, discussing development directions, formulating activities and other matters, and handling various tasks of the office. The person with the most say in this firm is Hikaru Kurosawa. Putting aside this matter of power, she also wanted to listen to Kurosawa's arrangements, nothing else, because her feelings for Kurosawa were not just love, but also admiration. Wait a moment. When Oga Musashi saw the young man turning away, and saw Miss Igarashi's attitude as if she was actually seeing off a guest, a ridiculous idea came to his mind, and he immediately panicked and hurriedly tried to persuade her to stay. As the vice president of Sony Music Entertainment, he personally paid a visit with such a lucrative contract. This was a task assigned by the board of directors to allow him to cooperate with 0 Hour Master. But now, this cooperation seems to have collapsed. With a contract of 13 billion, if he fails to sign a contract with 0 Hour Master, reach a cooperation, and fails, the board of directors will definitely make him look good. Faced with his request to stay, Kurosawa Ball didn't even look back and walked out step by step. Master 0 Hour, please wait a moment. Seeing that he was about to walk out of the office, Oga Musashi panicked completely. He could bet that this young man was not a 0 Hour Master, but he didn't dare to bet. Because if he wins the bet, at most he will get angry, but if he loses the bet and Master 0 Hour turns around and walks away, or even reaches a cooperation with Apple Music, which is such a dereliction of duty, his position as vice president may be lost. Save. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 484. Master Zero Time, please wait a moment. At this moment, Oga Musashi no longer held the airs of a Sony vice president. He hurriedly stood up and chased after him in 2 steps. One was walking, the other was running. Master 0 Time, I'm sorry, I was blind. Please don't be so mean to me. Oga Musashi quickly chased after him and apologized decisively. As he said that, he stretched out his hand to grab Kurosawa Hikaru's arm and keep him. However, Kurosawa Hikaru seemed to have eyes on his back. Before he touched him, he turned sideways to avoid his hand. "I have seen your company's attitude. Please go back." Kurosawa Hikaru turned sideways and looked back at him with a cold expression. It is very useful to do research in advance. After some research, he has completely clarified his value. His current situation is a treasure mountain. Why did Sony Music, Apple Music, and Penguin Music come to him on the same day? I'm afraid it's because they have been watching and valuing, but they are afraid of the other two. The music market is limited. In this world where popular piano music is relatively mediocre, his piano music is of inestimable value and can bring a huge amount of fresh blood and considerable traffic to the music market. Because he just debuted, his Twitter followers have reached 60 million, and are still rising at an exaggerated speed. The lowest number of plays of the music singles he uploaded on YouTube is 270 million for Croatian Rhapsody, and the highest is Adeline by the Water, which has soared to 600 million. His existence is a phenomenal existence in the world. That's right, not just limited to Neon, but worldwide. Although not all 10 of his piano music are phenomenal, there are several world-famous songs in his previous life that have been popular for decades. I'm sorry, my attitude just now was wrong, but we came here with sincerity this time. The contract we give you is worth at least 13 billion yen, with an estimated value of more than 50 billion yen. This contract is one of the best in the world. Oga Musashi saw that he was obviously angry, but he was stopped, and he calmed down a little and explained. A contract of at least 13 billion yen is an absolutely sky-high contract even for the big names in the modern music industry. What's more, 13 billion is just the starting point, and its value may be even higher. You know, as long as Master Zero signs this contract, his worth will soar to 13 billion yen. You have to understand one thing, it is your company that wants to cooperate with me, not me who wants to cooperate with you. In other words, what you have to do is to impress me with your company's conditions and make me like your company's cooperation. At present, I am not very satisfied. Kurosawa Hikaru was taller than him. Seeing him mention the amount of the contract, he became confident again and said coldly, "Are you still not satisfied with the 13 billion contract?" Oga Musashi's heart skipped a beat and his face changed. In fact, he knew that he was here to discuss cooperation on behalf of Sony this time, but after seeing the beauty of Igarashi Runa, he was so attracted by her that he forgot everything for a while. The reason why he dared to show his disdain just now was because no matter which artist, which agency president or boss saw him, they were all very respectful, fearing that he would refuse to cooperate, even if they lowered their conditions and gave gifts privately to ask for cooperation with Sony. Even more, there was a 16-year-old idol artist and a 30-year-old beautiful female president who added his contact information and stayed overnight in a hotel in order to get him to agree. This is a very common operation. The entertainment circles of various countries are the same. The entertainment circle is not so easy to mix in. No, it is said that there are agencies going bankrupt every day, at least there are countless artists in a very difficult situation every day. It is precisely because of his successful experience that he came to discuss cooperation with Sony Music this time, and brought a contract worth at least 13 billion yen, with a conservative valuation of 50 billion yen, with sufficient confidence. Especially when he came to the Zero Time agency and saw that the storefront of this small company was so shabby, he was even more certain that both Master Zero Time and Runa Igarashi would beg him to sign the contract. You know, this is a contract with a guaranteed minimum of 13 billion yen and an estimated value of 50 billion yen, no matter who it is, they will be eager to sign it as soon as possible. I am very dissatisfied with your attitude just now, go back. Seeing his reaction, Kurosawa Hikaru was too lazy to talk to him. He just glanced at the two people who were with him and said lightly. In fact, he had just heard Oga Musashi's attitude of making things difficult for Miss Runa outside the door, and he completely gave up the idea of cooperating with Sony. Perhaps the conditions offered by Sony are very generous, but it may be because he is a local artist in Japan, and based on the industry situation, the conditions offered are actually the lowest. Whether it is Penguin Music or Apple Music, the conditions are more generous. After all, the industry situation in different countries is different. Especially Apple Music, which can be said to be rich and powerful, and its purpose is obvious, which is to snatch the throne of the first music software in the streaming media market from Sony Music. Putting aside this matter, he was not talking to Oga Musashi, but to the two people who were with him. The other man, judging from his appearance, temperament, and outfit, combined with the tone of his speech just now, is probably a lawyer in Sony's legal department. The legal department, although it seems that the position is not high in each company, has strong authority. What he said should be completely conveyed by the lawyer, and it would definitely make this Oga Musashi eat a pot. The internal competition of large companies is very scary, not to mention Neon's companies, their methods are even more cruel. Master Zero Hour, I'm really sorry. Please forgive my rudeness just now. I didn't mean to offend, it's just because you are too young. I never expected Master Zero Hour to be so young. Oga Musashi followed his gaze and looked back. When he saw Amuro Nozomi and Nozomi from the legal department, his body couldn't help but tremble, a chill rose in his heart, and he immediately bowed and apologized. When a person claims to be law-abiding, it is often a sign of a lack of humanity. Every one of Neon's lawyers is inhumane. They always only look at the results, not the process. This is exactly the case. As long as the contract is concluded in his business negotiations, whether he wants to use his power to make unspoken rules or do anything, the lawyer will not interfere and will only turn a blind eye. Laugh it off. If he fails to negotiate, if the parties are not satisfied with their contract quotation and other conditions, he can go back and report to the board of directors to explain the matter and see if they will consider adding more money. The most terrifying thing is that if the negotiation breaks down due to his fault, this guy will never care about his past friendship and report the process to the board of directors. It makes no sense for you to do this. Kurosawa Hikaru glanced at him and said calmly. After he was reborn in Neon, he had considered various professions, including lawyer. But after much thought, he realized that being a lawyer was too inhumane. It was a sharp weapon for the rich and a nightmare for the poor. It might not commit a crime, but it would cause unimaginable harm to people. In the end, he chose the position of a banker. Road. Master Zero Hour, I am a relatively stupid person. Please speak clearly. Oga Musashi only felt that the lawyer was staring at his back. He broke into a cold sweat and his hair stood on end. He knelt down and sat down on the spot, expressing his deepest apology and sincere request. I'm not the one you should apologize to. It was the first time for Kurosawa Hikaru to see Dogza. He was a little surprised and looked up at Runa Igarashi. Facing his gaze, the corners of Igarashi Runa's mouth slightly raised an arc. She felt very happy and happy. Should she say anything or not, Kurosawa Hikaru helped her carry the sky and vented her anger, making her feel safe. Although Oga Musashi is quite lecherous and likes to use his power to take advantage, he was able to become the vice president of Sony Music Entertainment. He is also a good person. Hearing the hidden meaning, he immediately reacted. Miss Igarashi, I'm sorry. I was so offended just now. Please forgive me. The next moment, Oga Musashi stood up and walked towards Igarashi Runa. After getting closer to 1 meter, he sat down again and even kowtowed. He had already figured it out. Master Zero Hour might have been angry when he heard him making things difficult for Runa Igarashi before he walked into the office. It is precisely because of this that Master Zero Hour's attitude is so decisive, more domineering than him, not polite at all. He doesn't want to talk in a few words, and turns around to leave. His question just now was nothing at all. The reason Master Zero Hour was angry was because he made things difficult for Igarashi Runa. Igarashi Runa was stunned when she saw his earth seat and kowtow. In fact, she had seen Dogza. After all, the service of the clerk at the hot spring hotel was like that of ancient times, full of servility, and he would always kneel down to greet guests. However, this was the first time she saw Dogza kowtow and admit his mistakes, because this highest courtesy can only be seen in TV dramas and is basically invisible in daily life. Miss Igarashi, please forgive me for my rudeness just now. Oga Musashi's posture and dignity were thrown away. Because the higher the status and the richer you are, the more you care about all this. He can only place his hope on her, because women are easier to be soft-hearted than men. A man who is so angry at his beauty can only rely on his beauty to stop him. Miss Igarashi, I'm really sorry. Please forgive me. Oga Musashi was frightened, as if grasping at straws, trying his best to seek forgiveness. Seeing him kowtow desperately, Igarashi Runa's anger had long been vented, and she looked at Kurosawa Hikaru for help, not knowing what to do. Mr. Daihi. Faced with her request for help, Kurosawa Hikaru spoke. Yes, I'm here. Hearing that he finally relented, Oga Musashi turned around with great excitement and knelt on the ground to face him. Did you make a mistake? However, Kurosawa's eyes were still cold, not as gentle as he expected. Made a mistake. Oga Musashi was stunned and found that his voice was cold. The person you should apologize to is the board of directors who decided on this cooperation. Kurosawa Hikaru looked down at him from a distance and reminded him. As soon as these words came out, the verdict was announced. This cooperation has collapsed, the conclusion is final, and there is no way to turn it around.